I believe in me.
I believe in me.
I believe in you.
I believe in you.
Stand strong. You are powerful.
Stand strong. You are inspiring.
We are fighters. We are ambitious.
We are extraordinary. We are conquerors. Simply straight talk, our voices will be heard.
This is Simply Straight Talk. Tune in now, you don't want to miss out. Real conversation, plenty motivation. Keep you thinking and still entertaining. Yeah, I know that you'll enjoy the mottos free. Your voice is your choice. Hosted by Reggie B, but you already know. And you gotta check them out and how we roll. Hey, ain't nothing off the table. Give it to you straight. Changing your mindset, talking past mistakes. You ain't gotta wait, time to take off. This is Simply Straight Talk.
Welcome to the Simply Straight Talk podcast. It's Melissa, and you're listening to a podcast about real life. And you know, between me, Reggie, and Angelique, it's about to get real. Each week, we deliver the best hard-hitting topics on relationships, mental health, parenting, business, and anything else that promotes self-care while keeping it real. We care about what affects you. Now let's start this show.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Simply Straight Talk podcast. This is your man Reggie, and to all my haters out there who are listening and looking for something just to start some drama, I got a show for you today. So feel free, haters, to keep on hating, because we gonna keep on going. What's up? What's up? But anyway, listen, you know that the objective of this show is to keep it positive and to really discuss things that get people thinking and sort of motivate people to think about what can make them better, how can they be better, what can they learn from their mistakes in life, and what can they do to improve professionally and personally. So along the way, whenever you're doing something like this and you put it out to the public, yeah, you're going to get haters. They ain't got no reason to hate, but they hate. But let them keep on hating, because that just motivates you. All right. Now, let's jump into today's show, because what we want to talk about today is dating. We want to ask some questions about dating. That's what we're going to call it. Dating questions and topics, okay? Because I want to get into this because I'm hearing a lot of people complain about the dating world, being single. I'm one of them. But anyway, when we talk about dating, when we talk about relationships, especially in these modern times, we have more influences in regards to how people date. There's more things from celebrity influences, social media influences. Expectations are not set always in a realistic manner, but we got expectations that are set based on what people see on social media, what they see on TV, what they see in their community or neighborhoods. So we just want to talk about ask some questions, and, things we're going to talk about is basic questions when you're starting to date somebody. You're getting out there and you got to meet somebody. And there's like 6 questions I want to talk about. How long to call someone after you've gotten their number? When you gotten their number, should you text or call? Should you ask for their Instagram to hit them up in their DMs, or should you ask for their phone number? And, sometimes people say, I need vibes before I make a connection or go out with somebody. But if you're doing everything through DM and text messages, can you really establish that vibe? Also, this one is for women. Do women make rules for the good guys and then break those rules for the bad boys? And the last question is going to talk about verbal and nonverbal communication between men and women. How does it play out? How does it affect the relation? How does it affect a person wanting to ask a person out or being out with somebody? So those are some of the things that I just kind of want to hit on and talk about. But let's jump it off, okay? Let's start off with the first one. So you meet this young lady, you meet this guy, and let's just say you meet this person and you decide to get their phone number. All right? They give you their phone number. How long do you feel you should wait to call someone after you get their number? because it's sort of a bit of a double-edged sword here because if you call too soon, they're going to say that you're desperate, you're thirsty, so they may not want to fool with you. They might think that you're crazy. If you don't call soon enough, they may think that you're not interested. So, and oftentimes when people meet somebody and try to talk to somebody, they don't discuss this. This is not discussed. It's like no one sits there and says, okay, hey, oh, sorry about that. Hey, I got your number. When is a good time to call you? Some people might do that, but I haven't done it. There might be other people who don't do it. It's like they get the number, like, okay, well, I'll call you. But when is a good time to call? Because based on the person who you're supposed to be calling, how that person perceives that time frame for you to call will determine if they think you're a creep or if they think you're thirsty. Like they don't want to deal with you. Oh, he's too desperate. I gave him my number, then he called me the night I'm going home. He comes to, you make it home okay? He already calling. So, it's like, it's stuff like that creates confusion and miscommunication when two people are trying to date and be in a relationship, trying to establish and understand how does all this play out? Because is it possible you can miss somebody? You can miss out on a potential good partner based on shallow assumptions? Because if you're saying, well, they have to call me within 2 days, that'll determine if I'm interested or not. But then some people may say 2 days is too long. They should have called me the next day. Which brings us to the next thing. Should I text or should I call? Because some people will say, well, if a person texts me, that's really impersonal. Other people say, well, to call me, that can be kind of creepy too. But the thing about it is, when two people are trying to get to know each other, well, let me ask you something. What do y'all think? Do y'all think it's better to text or do you think it's better to call? Because calling, if you catch them at the wrong time, it can be a bit of an issue. Like, oh, I can't talk right now. And maybe they can't. Maybe they're at work. Maybe they're in a meeting. Maybe it's the timing that you do text or call that person. If you call them early in the morning, they may be getting ready for work. They may be trying to get the kids ready, if they're a single parent or something. If you call them during the day, they might be in a meeting, might be working on a project or something. You call them at the end of the work, maybe they're tired, they just got off work, they don't feel like talking. So when is a good time to call? Now, if you text, they can respond back. So maybe the first one should be a text. What y'all say to that? Y'all think the first one should be a text message? Let the first contact be a text message? Just to kind of reach out. Hey, how you doing? Hope you're okay. Hey, let me know when it's a good time to call you. I would prefer myself, the first one to be a text message, maybe the next day. It depends on what time you got the number. Or if somebody says, well, call me later tonight. Or I can talk at these times and these times. But that also brings up the point of what happens when you call somebody and they tell you to call them at a certain time. And when you call them, they don't answer the phone. You text them, they don't respond to the text. Now, that would be me thinking, okay, well, they're not interested. They just gave me their number to get me off, to get me out their face. Or they just didn't want to have a conversation, or they just didn't want to get into it, so they just gave me their number to keep things moving. But in some cases, it could be a fact of a man or woman doing that because they want to chase. And primarily for women, it's about, I want to chase. I want him to prove that he's interested. So I want him to call me even though I don't respond. He needs to prove that he's interested in me, prove that he wants to be with me. So there's a lot of things that goes into this whole dating thing because there's a lot of different ideas between men and women. There's a lot of perceptions when communication is not, accurately put into place. Now, how do y'all feel about Instagram? Because you hear a lot of people saying, hey, can I get your Instagram? Can I hit you up in DM? Instead of a phone number. So would you rather give out your phone number or your Instagram? See, here's my thing about this, about when people say, let me get your Instagram. Yes, it is a little more secure because you can block the person if you don't want to do it, if you don't want to talk to them. But when they get your Instagram account, and especially if your account is open and they can just follow you, that means that they now can just kind of go through your whole little Instagram history to kind of figure some things out about you. What type of pictures do she take? Who she hang out with? What type of stuff she like to do? Where does she normally go? Like some people would use it for that as a tactical way to sort of figure stuff out about you. So is it really good to give out your Instagram because they're going to be looking at who you communicate the most with as far as your friends, who you interact with, how many women friends you got, how many male friends you got. So those are the things I come to wonder why people would rather give out their Instagram than their phone number. Because you can still block them with your phone number. And even today, you can get a Google number and all these different phone numbers that really goes nowhere. So you can give them a Google number, not even your real phone number. So you can just block them on the Google number. So there's different things you can do instead of giving out your Instagram. So I didn't understand that, because if you're trying to maintain some privacy and be a little low key, not give too much information, why would you give them your Instagram account? Especially if you're somebody that's really active on Instagram and a lot of friends and family on your Instagram. Because I guarantee you, they're going to try to follow people that you are following just to see, especially if they see if you're communicating a lot with certain people. They're going to try to follow them to see what they post, to see in case you posting something, let me see, because it may be something she keeping hers clean, but what she doing with this person. So that's my thing on the Instagram and phone number. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that. So if you're meeting someone, do you ask for their Instagram or do you ask for their phone number? Because there's a big difference, in my opinion, in what information you really giving that person. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about now needing vibes to connect with somebody. That's what I want to talk about. When somebody says, before I go on a date or before I meet up with somebody, I need to know that we vibing. Now, if you're texting, how can you say that you really got a vibe with somebody? Because in text messages, anything can sound good. Anybody can say what they think you want to hear when you're texting. And, if you're talking on the phone, face it, realistically, everybody just sort of playing off everybody. They're playing off everybody. You're playing off each other. This person says this, you come back with this. You basically just playing what they want to hear. That's all you're doing. So communication is good by voice because you can actually hear their voice. You can actually hear the fluctuations. You can kind of listen and hear, if they say they somewhere or they're doing something. So there's a lot that comes into play when you're actually talking to somebody on the phone versus text messaging. But to truly say me and this person vibe, you have to actually physically be in that person's presence. It means you have to go out. You have to be at a restaurant, someplace where y'all are sitting there looking at each other's face, talking to each other face to face. That's how you get that vibe. You're not going to get it on the phone. Now, on the phone, things are going to sound good. In text messaging, it's going to look good because you're visually reading something and thinking, oh, yeah, this is sounding good. This is sounding good. But when that person is sitting right in front of you, do they still have that same type jovial voice? Are they able to continue a conversation? Because in text messaging, anybody continue a conversation in text messages because you can kind of pause, respond back when you want to, take 2 or 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing on the phone. You can have a little conversation on the phone, keep it going for a little bit. But when you're sitting face to face, looking that person in the eyes and talking to them, what is the vibe then? Because now you got to ask yourself, is the attraction there? Is it really something that you like about this person? Are they able to look you in the face and continue this conversation face to face? See, that's what made me wonder when people say, we don't vibe, but they don't go out with the person. They don't try to talk to the person. They don't really try to do anything to where they're physically in front of that person to have these conversations. But they say they can't go out with somebody because, they didn't feel a vibe. But you never spent time with that person to actually see if there was some type of vibe or chemistry between the two of you. And I think that's something that people truly overlook a lot. They overlook. They overlook the ability and the what's the word I'm looking for? They overlook the effectiveness of just actually being in each other's face, actually having a conversation face to face with somebody. Because when you face to face, you can see their body language, you can see their emotions, you can hear it in their voice. Are they focusing in on you? Are their eyes focused on you? Are they actively listening to you and responding appropriately to you? Or are they looking like they're trying to get out? Or are they checking out what else is in the room? See, these are the things that sometimes, people don't think about when they say they want to find somebody they can vibe with. But they're not really trying to get that vibe, because tell the truth, oftentimes when people don't want to go out with somebody is because there's no physical attraction. And that's men and women. Men and women. There's no physical attraction. If a man asks a woman, hey, I want to go out with you, she gives him his number, she talks on the phone, and then she's like, I just don't feel like we vibe. There's no attraction. Just be honest. I'm not physically attracted to you. And the same thing with men. Men will get a woman's number, or a woman will give them their number, and the guy simply doesn't want to hang out with the woman because physically he's just not attracted to her. He's not into her. So he doesn't give her that time to build up that vibe. Which brings us to our next point that I want to talk about. And tell me, do y'all believe this? Like I said, this was more geared toward women. Do you feel, and women, you can answer this question too, do you feel that women make rules for good guys and break rules for the bad boys? Do you feel that? Do you feel that women actually do that? That they will make rules for good guys and then break the same rules for bad boys? Because we all know, and a lot of women have admitted it, that they really do like the bad boys. They like the bad boys. They like that whole, sort of, they call it confidence, but it's really just game playing, a bit of arrogance. They call it a little rough around the edges, somewhat about that street life, but not necessarily, because you can have a bad boy that simply works in a business. Like to get his little drink on. Don't mean he abusive, but he like to get his little drink on. That person that like to be in the clubs, that person that like to have that little street confidence about him. Whereas good guys might be more into, hey, let's have some intimate time together. Let's take some trips, let's just be about us. What are we building together? What can we do together? Good guys are more about you, whereas bad boys are about you, but they're more about their lifestyle. They're not really about you now. You're just an extra added flavor to their life. But they're more involved and concerned about their lifestyle than they are about the woman. Whereas good guys want a good life, but they also want a good woman to complement that. See, there's a big difference. There's a big difference. So let's say a woman makes a rule saying that she's not going to sleep with a man for, let's say, 3 months because she wants to take time to get to know him. So does that rule only apply to the good guy? Or does it apply, or does that rule get broken when that bad boy comes along that she's a little bit attracted to? Now, don't get me wrong. she can be attracted to both. Good guy doesn't mean that you're ugly. It just means that you have a different mentality about you. But maybe because that bad boy just has this little bit of an image that she's sort of attracted to, that sort of thrills her a little bit, she's more willing to break the rule because he might be a little bit more aggressive. You know? So is it true that women do make rules into where they will break them for the bad boys, but hold firm when it comes to a good guy? You know, maybe a good guy wants to take her to a more expensive restaurant, and she says, I'll never go to this type restaurant. But the bad guy's kind of like, oh, yeah, listen, why don't we just go hit Applebee's? Now, she says she'll never do Applebee's. She's not an Applebee's woman. She's not a Golden Corral woman. She's not, you know, one of these little fast food type women. She's the type of woman that wants higher up. So when a good guy says, hey, you know what? I like Applebee's. You want to go? Oh, no, you ain't taking me to no Applebee's. But when the bad boy says, it's like, well, I guess we can go this time and the next time. You know what I'm saying? So it is a thing to where there are rules that a woman may have, but depending on the fact that because this one is a little rough around the edges and a bad boy, she will break rules for bad boys that she won't for good guys. You see what I'm saying? So how do y'all feel about that? Are you a good guy that maybe you was interested in a woman and she was like, no, I don't do this, I don't do that. And then, you know, you guys went your separate ways and you found out that she's now with a guy that's a little bit of a bad boy and she's like, oh yeah, I do this, I do that. Come on now, let's keep it 100. Women, have you ever done that? I'm asking you women, have you ever done that? Have you ever set rules about who you would date, what you would do when you would date, when you would give up the stuff? And when it came to a bad boy, you gave it up, you broke your rule, but when it came to a good guy, you held firm and you would not break your rule. Like I said, everybody has their preference. I'm not judging because people have a right to change their mind. Because I personally believe that women are more visual than men. And they're both visual, to be honest with you. Men and women are both visual. I've said that before and I stand behind it. Men and women are both visual. Anybody who try to tell me that women are not visual first is full of shit. I'm telling you right now, they full of shit. Because a woman will look at a man just like a man will look at a woman and say, oh, you know what? I don't like their weight. I don't like the beard. I don't like their haircut. Or I don't like this about her. I don't like that about him. Physically judging a person before they get to know them. Men and women do it. And I think women are more about it. Now, when you go a little deeper, I think women look more at a man's job, finances, his status, than a man looks at a woman to determine her status. But that's just the way it is. And that's just the reality of it. That's the reality of it. Women really do look at a man as far as his status. They look at a man and judge him based on physical aspects. So it's never a case of where women are not physical. Women are physical just as men. They are. I have seen women look at a guy and their face squinches up because they were not attracted to that person. Watch when a man walks up to a woman and they are not attracted to their man. Look at their eyes, how their eyes start to squinch together a little bit. They cut their eyes to the left, but also you will see that their face sort of curls up like they just drunk some sour milk. Come on now. Women are just as physical as men. That's just the reality. There's nothing wrong. We are all physical creatures and we observe something physically. When we look at food, how it physically looks to us will determine if we feel like it's appetizing based on how it looks. We do the same thing when you're going to buy a car, when you're going to buy clothes. It's all about physical. Physically is what you see. And it's not until you try something on that you determine, Okay, I like this outfit. I like the way it looks. But when you put it on, you may say, you know what? This doesn't really fit me very well. I doesn't like the shape. I don't like this. I don't like that about it. You may not like the material doesn't feel good on you. So that's the thing that I think people have to first admit to the fact that we are all physical creatures. We all look at each other and critique each other physically before we get to know each other. There is no man or woman that looks at another person and says, I wonder if they're really thinking about the aspects of the universe, or how long will the planet Earth be inside the solar system before it's kicked out? What's going to happen when the Milky Way meets Andromeda? I wonder if they're good at math. I wonder if they really understand economics. Are they big on inflation? What is their financial spending like? These are the things that intrigue me. I would like to know their heart. What makes them cry? What makes them laugh? What makes them happy? Do they really care about how people are living right now? Are they looking around and thinking about how people are hurting? Do they? No. No, nobody does that. Nobody does that bullshit. It would be nice if people did, but in reality, people don't do that. They don't look at other people when they are trying to establish a relationship, especially an intimate relationship. Those things they are not considering about the person's intelligence, their morals, their values, who they are as a person. Those things are not the first thing that pops up in a woman's or man's mind. No woman looks at a man and says, I wonder what his values are. I wonder how he feels about children and family. I wonder if he's the type of man that wants to spend time, quality time, or is he the type that wants to hang out with the guys? What type of man is he in his heart? No woman look at a man and ask them damn questions. It's the same thing. Does he look good? I like his hair. I like his body. He's in shape. He looks about in the approximate age range. I like his beard. Okay, so far, so good. What type of job does he have? How much money does he make? Does he have good credit? Come on, man. Y'all know good and damn well that's what women look at when they think about a man. And then after that, it's because that should be actually on the back end for men and women. That should be on the back end. That should be on the back end. And that's why a lot of us are unable to find somebody that really is going to make us happy. And that's why when we go back to the question, we say that women will break rules for good guys. No, hold on. Women will make rules for the good guys and break rules for the bad guys, for the bad boys, the thugs. Women will break any rule they make for the bad boys. But for the good guys, they will put rule after rule after rule in place. Now, I'm going to throw a little extra in here because when we talk about good guys and bad boys, we talk about what some people say is confidence. And when it comes to that, like a woman say, I want a confident man. Now, I understand what confidence is. Now, when we talk about confidence, as far as being a man, a lot comes into that. Because sometimes you may have to build with a man for him to have that confidence. Because if he's honestly working to build and establish a future for himself and hopefully somebody else, his confidence is going to be a little shaky. Put it like this, women. If you're trying to get with a billionaire, your confidence is going to be a little shaky. Because the competition out there is going to be tough. Every woman that knows he's a billionaire is going to put on her A game. So you got to figure out, am I up to par to compete with them? And for men, it's the same thing. We have to figure out, and sometimes a man's confidence can be shaken because he's trying to figure out, look, I know I'm a good guy. I don't cheat. I have a job. I have a place to live. I have my own car. I work hard. I live comfortable. But my confidence may not be as strong if you see a woman and you know that she is interested in a guy who has a house that's got 12 bedrooms, 6 cars, a 22-car garage. Because that's just the reality of it, that sometimes that there are certain women who go after certain things. So you may not get that confident guy. But sometimes the good guy has the confidence. And you'll be surprised how many good guys, when you push them into a corner, like, I'm going to use myself for an example. I'm not an argumentative guy. I'm not a guy who really gets into conflict on the job, in my personal life, in business. I'm just not a guy who gets into conflict. But I'm about my business. Who I am when I'm working is simply this. It's about production. It's about what are we producing? Are we getting the job done? That's my number one thing. The job is getting done. So my work voice is different than my home voice. My home voice is like, I have been making decisions all day. I've been trying to get this group of people to be more productive. I'm trying to get them to be more established in their careers, their professional growth. So when I get home, I may not be that guy that's like the bad boy, but that can come out. It is not a bad thing. But when it comes to decisions and businesses, there's a different person. Well, it's the same person, but it's a different mentality of thinking. But because a good guy wants to actually sort of take care, be there, they want to see the person that they're with happy. So they're not always going to be, I'm putting my foot down, this is what we doing. Whereas a lot of women want that bad boy who's like, yeah, we're going to do this or we doing that. No, you ain't doing that. Come on, get dressed. You know, it's just a difference. But you got to decide, what do you want in the long run? Next, I want to talk about verbal and nonverbal body language, because this is so confusing between men and women. Because we hear a lot of women say, oh, no, I want guys to approach me, but they want to approach me. Some women say, well, I got a resting bitch face. And, you know, we get different things. And sometimes women have said that, I do this because I want a man to work. If he's interested in me and confident, then he'll approach me. He won't worry about how I look on what my face looks like, or, my facial expressions. He don't care about that. But, if you see a woman that when you say hello, or she's frowned up or she's nonchalant, he's not going to speak. And the same thing for guys, unless a woman wants that bad boy type person, she will probably respond to that sort of overconfident, sort of bit of an arrogant type mentality. But if a woman doesn't want that, or she gets sort of like, he was sort of rude, sort of disrespectful, then she's going to feel like, why would I waste my time dealing with you? Because if that's how you're talking to me and I'm just trying to engage with you in a conversation, do I want that every day? Do I want a man that's actually going to talk to me like that every day? And the same thing for a man. Like, do I want a woman that I got to play mind games with to understand what she's feeling, what she's thinking? I got to try to read her mind, read her thoughts. It's kind of like that commercial where the guy walks into the room and the woman's sitting on the couch looking at the window. And the guy says, hey, is everything? Hey, what's wrong? And she turns around real slow. Nothing. Then turns back around and he just kind of like freezes and walks out the room. When you look at that, clearly something's wrong. Say what the hell is going on. And I think a lot of times we assume that our body language is saying one thing, and we assume that people should understand our body language or our expectations when we behave a certain way that's nonverbal. Because now you got to understand, it takes time for people to get to know each other. And I think people think that their nonverbal body language is the same as verbal body language. I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, well, I did this, but they didn't respond, or you didn't respond. And they should have understood when I did this. There's a big difference between if somebody walks up to someone and says, hello, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, thank you. Would you mind if I sit down and talk to you? Sure, have a seat. Versus, hey, how are you? Fine. Okay, am I supposed to say something else? You didn't tell me yes or no. What am I supposed to do? is like, you know what I'm saying? So, when it comes to dating these days, it's very difficult because there's just so much that both sides have to figure out and try to understand. And it's so confusing. And then it leads to this back and forth, men and women. Well, men are like this and women are like this. And nobody wants to look at their choices. Like, you made the decision to date the person you're dating, but yet you're blaming every other person within that gender for it. Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But anyway, tell me, what do you think about today's show? What do you think about the topics that I just talked about? Like, how do you guys feel about it? Do you feel like this dating is going crazy these days? There's a lot of misconceptions. I mean, tell me about it. Like, today we talked about how long to call someone after you get their number. Should you text or call that person after you get their number? Should you ask for their Instagram or their phone number? Then we talk about needing vibes, for connection. But how can you vibe with somebody that you don't sit down in front of face to face? We talk about rules people have for dating. Will women, make rules for the good guys and break rules for the bad guys? And then we talked about verbal and nonverbal, the miscommunication and body language. Man, I don't know. Y'all holler at your boy. Hey, thank you for checking out the show, man. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, continue to follow. I appreciate the support, and we'll see you next week.
It has been wonderful sharing this conversation with you here on the Simply Straight Talk podcast. If you have feedback on today's episode, DM us on Instagram at Reggie_BM11 or email speak@simplystraighttalk.com. We'd love to hear from you. Join us again next Friday for more solution-based conversation and tips for how to deal with the challenges of life. Thanks for listening.